That's the motto. Drop a few bills and pop a few champagne bottles. Throwing that money like you just won the lotto. Whipping up all damn summer, making that bread and butter. Tell me did I just stutter? That's the motto. Drop a few bills and pop a few champagne bottles. Throwing that money like you just won the lotto. Whipping up all damn summer, making that bread and butter. Tell me did I just stutter? That's the motto.
Hello, welcome to Loaded Mag. Thank you very much for tuning in. First of all, before I start, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like the show and subscribe if you haven't already. We really, really appreciate it, so thank you. So this show, we are here to talk about the tough tackler, the number 6 that we all crave. And the latest transfer rumour or transfer target that we've been linked with is a Khéphren Thuram. Now, some of you will recognise that surname. He has a very famous father called Lilian Thuram. But Khéphren Thuram is predominantly a number 6, whereas I think his father was a centre back or right back. I think it was mainly right back to play centre back. Tell me if I'm wrong there, boys. So we've been linked with Khéphren Thuram from Nice. Khéphren is 22 years old. He's played for Monaco and more recently Nice, as I say. He is a French international. He's actually made his debut for France. So yeah, very, very interesting. Now this is a player, lads, that we've been linked with for I'd say the last few months. We've all spoken in the past, the majority of this season, saying that we could really do with a number 6, a new central midfielder. Daz, I'm going to start with you first, mate. What are you thinking about these rumours? What do you think about Khéphren Thuram? And do you think he is someone that Eddie Howe and his coaching staff and the owners would be looking at?
Most definitely. And I got to correct you, Chris. Not the last few months. About a year ago, Mr. Sean Casey came on and talked a lot about him. So Sean will kill us if we don't. Don't worry.
Sorry, Sean. Sorry.
If this one comes through, I have that clip, Sean. But he's a great tackler. Great age, great tackler. He likes to dance as well. So he'll fit nicely into my little intro there. So he's pace. He's got skill. He's the ability to sustain a tackle as well. He can pick a pass and take a shot. He likes to dribble as well. He's a perfect foil for Bruno for me, and they could interchange, I guess, as well. So he could take on, as well as a number 6 role, against number 8, so they could chop and change. So for me, it would be nice if we sign him, and if his brother wants to come along as well, he can join him too. I think that's him there in the picture. Not 100% sure. I think it is. But so I would take him to Newcastle. And again, a reminder: like and subscribe. Peace.
I love it. Khéphren Thuram talked about a lot. With regards to French football, and you've just mentioned, Chris, he got his international call up, fully deserved. He's had a brilliant season. This has kind of been his breakout season this season. He had little moments last season, but this is the season where he's really come to the forefront. And actually, it's a strange one because we've talked about on Loaded Mag and NUFC, and I've certainly talked about personally of having a ball breaker, someone that's a battering ram of a number 6. He actually isn't that. And it's strange to think like he's not that type of number 6 defensive midfielder. Don't be mistaken. He can tackle, tackle, and he gets stuck in. But what he does is kind of what we expect Bruno to do, but we want Bruno to be further forward in that he can hold the ball in possession. He can carry the ball out of a defensive position into midfield. As you talked about it before, he can dribble. His ball carries are up there with anybody else. He likes to get forward. He likes to take on a man. So he's got the overall game. He can tackle. He is confident on the ball. He can bring it out of midfield into attacking areas. And actually, he likes to drive forward with the ball with a view to shoot. And he hasn't got a bad shot on him either. So he's kind of got the other side to his game as well. And actually, not only is he number 6, he can play in the number 8 because he can get up and get down on the pitch. So again, as we've talked about on the previous videos, versatility. It's exactly what Eddie Howe wants in his players. And so he offers a lot in various different positions in our current setup. We look at our 4-3-3 and the way we set up. He can play as a number 6. He can play as a number 8. He's got that versatility about him in game. And he can take the game by the scruff of his neck if he needs to. And that's what you want. But what's really interesting, again, and we've talked about it with previous players on the previous videos that we've done, is that you've got Khéphren Thuram that's 6'3", 6'4". We're building a bigger physical presence of a team. You look at the likes of Dan Burns, Sven Botman, Joe Linton, those types of players that we're building. Alexander Isak, 6'3", 6'4". So we're building that bigger physical type of team that has a presence about it. He fits into that seamlessly. And actually, you think of Joe Linton, Khéphren Thuram, Joe Willock's not the smallest of lads, and you look at the physicality in that midfield. If any midfield coming up against us next season, you think they're going to know they're going to be in for a battle. So he brings a lot to his game, which I'm excited about. And the fact that you mentioned, he's 22 years old, a great age. Tells me again that we are buying or looking to buy players that are not world-class stars now, but we can make into world-class stars. He's got one cap under his belt for France right now, but we'd be looking to sign him with a view to him, in the next 10 years, getting another 70 or 80 playing for France and maybe a few trophies. Okay. So he, for me, has so many good qualities that we can take advantage of. Is he the finished article? Not by any means, but if there's anybody that can do the business with a young player, it's Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
So Pete, your description there of him didn't really say to me a number 6. It was saying to me something again in between a 6 and an 8. So is that someone we should go for? We need a bigger squad going into Europe next season, but or should we look towards someone else that is more of defensively minded?
It depends on how you look at Newcastle United. If we're looking at Newcastle United right now, in its current form, we would probably need a bit of a ball breaker in that midfield to break play up. However, and I've called for that as well. However, next season and the seasons going on, we should be looking to dominate games in possession. We should be looking to have 50, 60, 70% of the ball in games and dominate. So do you really need that ball breaker of a defensive midfielder if you're dominating possession? Not always, you still do, but it's not necessarily a priority. Do I think we need a player like that? I think we can get someone like that in addition to Khéphren Thuram. There's no doubt about it. But for me, Khéphren Thuram is, whilst he's available, because he's at Nice, and it'll be a decent price right now, a price that's affordable for Newcastle, but you give it another year and you're looking at an extra 15, 20 million, maybe even more. So it's one of those where it's like, okay, do you get him now or do you wait? Do you get a player right now while he's available at a good price and then look to get maybe a ball breaker that can do a bit of a job for you? That's not the question for us. That's the question for Eddie Howe and his team. But for me, would I prioritize him over a ball breaker going into next season, Champions League football? I probably would.
Very, very, very interesting discussion, this, boys, because but it hasn't quite gone down the path I thought it would. Like, we were talking about what we need. We're talking about that number 6. We're talking about someone, like that ball breaker that you were saying, Pete. But it sounds like an opportunity too good to pass up with Khéphren Thuram because, from the clips I've seen of him, very, very comfortable on the ball, can travel but really well with the ball. And are we not talking about having a midfield that is interchangeable going forward? We see that with the front line. Eddie Howe, one thing that he loves is having a midfield or a forward line full of players who are all interchangeable, can all cover, are all comfortable in different positions within, that sector. So that midfield area, if you've got players who can all, comfortably play in any of the three positions, that would be something that he would look to have in the squad, because we need that flexibility. I suppose my last question to you all, and I'm robbing this off you, Daz, because I loved it on the previous show that you did, is Khéphren Thuram available to us? Is he somebody who is attainable without Champions League football? Do you think he's too high? Or do you think that he is somebody who we could tempt to Newcastle, and that, we would be able to attract with, say, Europa League football, if it came to that?
I added that. Like that. Oh.
Start with you, Daz, because you pressed the button.
Yeah. So for me,
what was going on?
I added a few more little tweaks, but yeah, I think we should go after him. I think we can get him as well, even if we were not to make Champions League football. Oh, let's hope we do. But yeah, I think bring him in, and we need to bulk out the squad, and like, if you think about it as well, he could take on the Bruno role as well, because Bruno, like, we could have rested Bruno out for a while this season and give him a chance to recover. So we can't constantly rely on him going forward as well. He's going to need downtime, because we're going to have a lot of matches next season. So we need to chop and change. So I would definitely bring him in.
And Pete, just to add on to when you respond as well, just a very quick one. How much are we talking as well?
If you'd have asked me when the link started to resurface again around November time, around the World Cup time, I would have said anything around sort of 25 to 30 million. With the interest in him growing, with him getting the international cap since, you're probably looking around your Bruno Guimaraes fee. You're probably looking around your 35 to 40 million to get him out of Nice. Do they need to sell? Maybe. But they won't need to sell all of their top players. So you'd want to get in there quick with him and get him out of there. And because of his age and because of his potential, and because of the great age, and again, like others that we've talked about before, because of the type of teams that are interested, Nice are going to know that they can demand a fee. And this is one of the things that we're going to need to be really, really careful about. Are we going to act fast to get them out of there before we start getting into a bidding war? Or are we going to wait, get into a bidding war and go, actually, that's not the kind of fee that we want, because it then gets inflated to a 60 million, for example, which at his age and his kind of experience in football, at first team and top level, international level, probably isn't the right fee.
Much.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much, but who's to say that we don't go in there and grab him early doors? You don't know, but yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting one. But he's got serious potential, and actually, I'll put it out there now that. And you mentioned about his brother, who's also been linked. I actually think his potential's greater than his brother's. I really genuinely do.
I've got a question, but we're not going to answer it here. Let's leave it for the Fully Loaded Transfer Show in the summer. Make sure you tune in for that. But with Nice, as you mentioned, Pete, they're not going to want to let two really good players go. Who would you pick? But we're out of time, so it's a case of how'd you like that?
How you like